Recording in
Whoa, that's weird. Okay,
Hey, Nathan, how are you?
fine. I'm just wondering about my background, though. Some weird things happening with that.
Mike, how are you?
How are you, Larry?
Good to see you. Missed you yesterday.
I
But
apologize. It's been a hectic week.
No, don't apologize. It's open, But yeah. Hello, Jeff.
How's
Good to
it
see
going,
you guys.
Larry?
Hi, Jeff.
Excellent. Excellent.
Good.
Joseph, I keep running into you. Joseph, you're everywhere. You're everywhere these days.
Whoa.
Why am I echoing? Somebody needs to go on mute, I think.
No, that's me.
Is that you? Okay.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Wow.
Hey, Susan,
That's
how
quite
are
the
you?
echo.
Bernard, man,
Morning, happy new year.
you too. I appreciate all those comments on these posts I'm putting out. Thank you.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do. Of course.
Yeah, you're right there. That's awesome. I have a new approach to doing. Hi, Deb. I have a new
Morning.
approach to doing posts that. Oh my God, Dee Dee, I haven't seen you for a long time.
It's been a long time.
I know.
It's good
I
to
see you in the
see you.
Slack channel in Ellen's Slack channel. So I know you're still there. We got Chicky. How are you? Carrie.
Hello.
Filling in here. David. Chella.
Morning.
Chella, thanks for yesterday. That was a nightmare. My 82-year-old mother going into her garage, hit a patch of ice and hit the accelerator and smashed the front end of her car into the wall, and then drove it to the dealership or drove it to a garage or whatever. And they're like, you gotta go to a body shop, So she went to and they're like, you might as well go to the dealer. So she went to the dealer and he's like, it might not even be worth fixing this thing. I was like, how could you do that much damage in a garage? It's crazy. So obviously she's freaking out. And so I that's why I left the meeting. I was like, I got to go deal with this.
For what it's worth, the same thing happened to my mother a long time ago. She had a patch of ice in Calgary, and she slid right into the garage door and broke the thing in half. My father had to go out there and fix it, and he did, sort of.
Oh my God.
But she didn't do any damage to the car, luckily, but she just slid right into the door and just broke it right in half. It was a solid piece of wood, and she just split it right down the middle.
Oh,
I remember my dad fixing it with pieces of wood and carriage bolts to hold the damn thing together again.
This could have been so much worse, but it was
Absolutely.
okay. So,
Absolutely.
hey, Nick, Paul, Remco, Lynn, thanks for joining, everybody. Paul, my God, I can't believe you have time to do this.
Probably don't, Larry. I'll stay
So,
on as long as I can.
My other company, Op Generation, is just like on fire right now. And Paul is one of our leaders there, taking on probably too many accounts with the new closes and stuff, right?
Not too many. You can never have too many.
Well, that's how I feel, but I don't have to deal with them anymore. Thank God. All right, so we're filling in here enough. I think we got Luann joining. Awesome. So we should probably get started. I really wanted to bring on Mike because so introducing you to Mike Verret. Mike has a branding background in consumer products, and I think consumer products marketing is where it's at. Whenever I want to understand anything in marketing is about positioning and differentiation, and the rest of it's just filler. It's just a bunch of noise, but positioning and differentiation leads to storytelling and focus and clarity in the market. And that's what Mike knows how to do. And then he's turned that into a company applied into the B2B world. And that approach really solves a huge problem that I've had for years, which, I've kind of solved in my own way. But, this idea of the elevator message, I cannot tell you, I've worked with hundreds of B2B companies constructing elevator messages and positioning and just all this kind of stuff over and over again. And it's not the right way to do it. You know, it's, you can't take every single thing you want someone to understand and boil it down into a sentence. It's a conversation flow. People get information in pieces, and you've got to work them through that whole process to make it work right. And that's what Mike's doing. So I'm going to just turn it over to him really quick, just so everybody knows. I've got the Revenue Climber Expedition started. It's going great. We've got pretty much everything, you know, up and running. If anybody's interested in that, the way I do it is I'll put a Calendly link in, and I do a half hour initially, just to get a feeling of where people are at. And the takeaway from that meeting is you're going to know what your problem is. So it seems like a small thing, but knowing what your problem is and what to do first is really challenging for people. And I can do that with anybody in a half an hour pretty easily. And I don't charge for that. So I'll put the calendar link in if anybody's interested. Feel free to sign up. So if everybody could put yourself on mute, and then we'll turn it over to Mike. So he'll go through his thing, and then we'll do a Q&A. And then for anybody who wants to stay, we'll do another half an hour, and we'll break down into one-to-one groups. So you guys can.
Larry, you had a question.
I'm sorry, what?
There was a question from the group.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Larry, quick
Oh, hey,
question.
Deb.
Sorry to interrupt. I just could you just share what the difference is between the expedition and your Summit Club group?
The expeditions are paid product. The Summit Club group is our private group. So it's more the personal transformation group.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of it, but I'm not talking about that to anybody.
I just was curious about what.
Right. So
I
I don't want to confuse people. So publicly, Revenue Climber Expedition is all we do.
Got it. Thank you.
So, all right. I'll put myself on mute. If everybody else could, I would really appreciate that. And then Mike, why don't you take the stage?
All right, if you insist, but I'm warning you, when somebody gives me the microphone, it usually carries on for a while. So I hope you guys have time. Good morning, everybody, or from wherever you are, good time of the day. My name is Mike Verret, and my business is called Verret & Associates, and I sit here in the giant state of Rhode Island. It takes 40 minutes to drive across the entire state. My background is in marketing, advertising, and branding. And it's 25 years, most of it on the agency side, but then 7 years spent at Hasbro Toys and Games in Rhode Island, where I was on the global brand organization in a marketing and product management capacity for brands like Transformers, Jurassic World, Monopoly, Nerf. And what it really was working at a Fortune 500 manufacturing company, just like any Procter & Gamble company, like making Colgate toothpaste. But I like to refer to it as, let's call it a 5 to 7 year really painful master's degree. So at this point, I can honestly say with confidence that I've done everything from concepting a new product based on a consumer insight, getting that product built, marketed, writing the commercial, and acting in the commercial. I've had to do everything on a marketing spectrum. And in that 25 years, I found one commonality. When I looked back, I realized that in all of my capacities in my career, the one thing that stood out was I understand an audience. I understand how to connect an idea to an audience on their terms and get them to pay attention and follow along and get what we need them to get out of it. For 4 years, I was the face of Hasbro Games. They would put me on a plane 35% of the year and literally fly me around the world to present Hasbro Games to internal teams, buyers, even consumers in some cases. And it was in places like Mumbai and Hong Kong and Brazil and the UK and Germany. So I would get exposed to audiences of all types. And my challenge was always, how do I make sure that all of them take away the same message, the same meaning, and I stand out as memorable? So I created my business based on showing other businesses how to talk about themselves to their audience, with the simple intent of getting them to say, tell me more. The truth is, every one of us, whatever business we're in show business. There's no business without show business. We're constantly playing a role, if you think about it that way. We don't use terms like ideate and synergize and KPI KPI means key performance indicators. If Larry and I went out for coffee one day as friends and it's 4:30, I say, oh, I got to go pick up my son. What are your KPIs this weekend? He'd look at me like I'm nuts. It's not a real language. He'd say, what are you doing this weekend? And businesses get carried away in that 100% of what's important to them. The fact of the matter is only 5% of that matters to your audience. So the challenge becomes how to find that 5% and relate it to them in a way that's going to connect with them and bring them all the way through to a call to action, what you want them to do next on their terms. So let's set the stage real quick. Every business operates internally, thinks internally. They have a vision, they create a mission statement, they create what are their core values, what are their strategies, products, and services, but it's all created internally. The audience doesn't think that way. People read and consume information like human beings. It doesn't matter if it's B2B, B2C, it does not matter. If you're reading words or watching a video, you're a human being consuming that information. Businesses are always still thinking like a business and not like a human being. So the challenge becomes, here's all my services. Here's what I could do for you. I'm going to spend money on advertising, SEO, SEM to make sure I'm at the top of the search list. But let's play that out for a second. I'm a PR firm. I want people to find me. I know they're going to go on Google to find me. They're going to search PR firm. They're going to get 50 results in under a tenth of a second. And all they have to do is hit the back button, next result, right? In that moment, from their perspective, I'm one of 50. If 49 of them say we're a PR firm, they all look the same. If I say, I'm going to get you out of writer's block, every business gets writer's block, we'll help you find the words to get your news out, I stand out as 100% different from the other 49, simply because I chose to talk to them about how they got to their point of need, their need state. And it all has to do with just understanding what's important to the audience in that moment. Their challenge is they can't write their own news. So yes, they need a PR firm, but it would be good to have one that understands what their plight was and how they got to that need state. And that's exactly what I chose to do in my message by calling out a simple thing that all of us have experienced, writer's block. It makes it a challenge. You can't see it because it's your business. So having that outside perspective is important. But let's talk about how your audience thinks and how any audience thinks. They think in terms of information, okay? They think in terms of what's important to me now, and these are the questions I have to ask to elicit a certain response or to get to a decision or whatever that may look like. And a lot of that is based on, okay, what questions are they going to ask in a certain order, not what I think they have to know. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say Larry's car is broken. It's not making a weird knocking sound and he goes to a garage. If he goes to that garage and the first response is, my car is broken, okay, look at all the tools I have to fix your car, that becomes really overwhelming for Larry. But if I say, okay, I sort of hear what the problem is, what we're going to do is put it up on the lift and get it and take a look at what's going on. I'm going to assess it and tell you what's going on and how much it'll cost. And then we'll use the tools that we need to fix it. It becomes a completely different conversation. That's what you're trying to get to, is how a human being is thinking. So the elevator idea that Larry spoke of is based on a conversation going up an elevator. And we all think of the elevator pitch as 10 to 50 to 60 seconds, say what you do. Networking is a great example of this. All of us on this call understand what this sounds like when it's your turn to say what you do. Now, let's imagine we're on an elevator together and you ask me what I do. Let's say, or I'm still in PR for this example, remember. If I say I'm an executive at a PR firm or I own a PR firm, your mind has already gotten everything you need. Mike, PR firm. That's all it's going to remember because we shed all the other stuff. I'm not going to remember everything that is said. I'm going to remember what's important. If I start with that, where does it go from there? Because you already know what a PR firm is, and I just told you I run one. What else do you possibly need to know? Now, that's one example. The other example is the I help approach, where you say everything that you do, and that's what Larry was talking about too. What do? I help businesses get their news out by providing a service that does this and yields this result, and they get 10 times sales. I don't know what to listen to. You just threw a lot of stuff at me that's 100% important to you. None of it's important to me yet. Those are two ways that people usually, most often, respond to that question. Now, the point of the elevator pitch is to get them to ride up 8 floors of the elevator. And it's based on how people would ask for information. The first floor, the only objective is to get to the next floor, the second floor. If you know that, then what you're doing is trying to create intrigue and get them to say, tell me more. So let's apply that to the PR firm. What do? I make news. If I say that, I may be a reporter in PR, or I could be an unruly celebrity in the gossip column, as far as you know. You don't know enough yet. And I've set that tone for tell me more. I'm intrigued. What does that mean? That's the objective of your first floor. Your second floor is not services. It's not about you. It's about who you help in your audience. When they say tell me more, you want to relate it to a situation that they can understand. In that case, I want to tell them on my second floor, businesses can't write their own news. It's like you trying to write in flowing, embellishing terms about yourself. You can't do it. As a human being, a business suffers from that same thing. They have a hard time tooting their own horn, and they know everything. Effectively, they get writer's block. Okay, so what do you do for them? That's the question I'm trying to elicit on the second floor. Gets me to the third floor. My solution, stated simply, I get you out of writer's block and find the words to make you look your best when it matters. That's my solution. The next question I want to elicit is, so how do you help them? I don't want to empty out my services now. I want to bring them through an experience, a process on the fourth floor. First, we meet to identify what your big news is and what you need to get out and understand your language and your vision for it. Then we create a plan, step 2, that suits your needs, and we outline exactly what the strategy is. Then step 3, we go into implementation and we get your word out there in the right hands, right people talking about it. Wow. Well, how do you do that? What are your services? 5th floor is your services. Now, instead of saying, here's all my services, you're able to align them under that process. And it starts to look, instead of a menu at McDonald's, like a 3-course meal. This is what'll happen here. This is what'll happen here. This is what'll happen here. That's ultimately how you want to explain your services, because now you've shown them beginning to end how you work with them. It gives the services more meaning and when it's going to happen and what it's going to do. Next, what do I get? What's better for that person afterwards? What's the benefit to me? That's your 6th floor, benefits. You're able to say, here's how you're better off after working with me, and it relates back to your solution. 7th floor, can you prove it? Does this work? Here's case studies, here's testimonials as social proof that what I do works. Here's something from the CEO of this company that said we couldn't have done it without Mike. That's proof for them. Now, they understand who you help, how you do it, what you offer, what they get out of it, and that it works. They're ready for the call to action on the 8th floor, and that's where you want to get them. What do you want them to do next? In my case, I just want them to schedule a free 30-minute call. So that's my call to action, and it shows up 3 times on my website. And that's what I talk about all the time on calls like this: how to connect with me and talk about what you're going through, just like Larry does. Let people explain it. Because, last point, none of this comes across as a system. All of this is you explaining what you do. This is just a process to explain it. So at no point is this a guarantee of fill in these blanks and it's going to work. That's not what this is all about. It's all about how do you relate to your audience and what you do in a way that appears different to them. So by going through that structure, you're able to create an architecture that, flip it this way, come down those questions. That's how a human being would ask questions to figure out something. So what do you do? Oh, what does that mean? How do you help them? Well, what does that look like? How does it work? What do you offer as your services? And what do I get out of it? Do you have any proof to back this up? Yeah, okay, I'll take your card. That's how you want a conversation to go. And that's how a human being is going to process that information. So that it's based on, I tell people I got my master's degree. It's neither of my masters are real, clearly. my master's degree in human nature, common sense, and logic by managing a bar for 2.5 years after I graduated school. And that's what it's all about. It's not about analytics and where you show up in SEO. It's how you connect to your audience on their terms. And if you think of it in terms of a conversation, all of a sudden it starts to frame up how your website should operate, what your sales presentation should communicate, and what you say in a networking call. And the beauty of it is once you have that one way to talk about yourself, that one architecture for how to do it, it works like a slinky. Everybody knows what a slinky is, where you can contract it all the way down to a networking conversation in 40 seconds, or you can expand it out into your website or a program or how you talk about your business. Excuse me. But like a slinky, if you change the order, the coils get tangled up and you can't use it anymore. The importance of order of information is the most important thing to take away. If you start with services, they're not ready for it. They're ready on the 5th floor, not the 1st floor. So it forces you to think like your audience. And that's what I do. I work with businesses 3 weeks, 3 meetings to get them their one way to talk about themselves, because they can't wait to go out and start propagating that, build their website, create their sales presentation, know what to say in social media, is all predicated on that one way to talk about yourself. So that's the end of my spiel. I hope it made sense. And I'm really hoping that people have some, not only questions, but another thing I encourage you to do is give me what you say about you now. And let's talk about it right now and see if we can augment how you think about it.
I think that's a great approach to it. So let's just do it in order. I'm going to take a look at, so Sajad, you had a compliment and a question.
Yes. Mike V did more for my business in 30 minutes than anybody I've ever met with in my life. I used to say I help people create and grow their businesses, and that got me some money. And then Mike changed it. I don't know if I paraphrased what he gave me, but I help people become extremely well organized, which significantly increases their productivity and substantially reduces their stress. And my land rate is way higher, and I made tons more money because of 30 minutes with Mike V. Mike V, I have a question for you too, Larry, quickly. Mike V, have you ever danced when you were traveling around the world?
It's always good to get my first question from Sajad out of the way.
Always.
Sajad
Gotta get it out of the way.
All right, Sajad is referring to an instance where I used to run the global sales meeting for Hasbro Games, and I effectively turned it into an episode of The Tonight Show without any interviews and just stupid human tricks. And our intent was to get people to come up and play these giant versions of the game. So Pie Face was a big game that everybody loved, where you do this thing, you turn this thing, and it's like roulette. This hand covered in whipped cream comes up and hits you in the face. We made a giant 4-foot tall version of it and had like the GM of all of Europe coming up to play it and get hit in the face. Well, I got overzealous with the opening for the US team and decided to do a little bit of twerking at the beginning. If anybody doesn't know what twerking is, look it up. And it resulted in me dislocating my kneecap, stumbling across the stage and landing on a 4-foot cannon that fires whipped cream and gashing my hand open on a mock-up of a wooden Monopoly jail.
Oh my
You
God.
can't make this stuff up.
No.
And everybody thought it was a joke. Everybody thought I was doing it just to get a laugh out of the crowd. I had to say it in the microphone, no, I actually need help over here. So, it left a mark on an entire organization. Not only was the entire US marketing and sales team in the room, but it was also being live streamed to 6,000 other employees around the world.
That's awesome.
So I became the idiot legend of Hasbro almost overnight.
Every company needs an idiot legend.
That's right.
Larry the intellectual, what genius introduced you to Mike V? I was just curious.
You already know the
Genius
answer.
I think genius is an ironic term. You're driving around in a trailer right now.
For anybody who's a little slow in the Sajad introduced me to Mike V.
Good to see you, buddy.
So Jeff Strauss, where are you? Oh, there you are.
Here I am. Thank you, Larry. Mike, great presentation as always.
Thank
And
you. Thanks for the shout out today.
That's what I was going to comment on. I had heard this great story on NPR yesterday about glow in the dark birds, and I was trying to figure out how the heck am I going to make this into a post tomorrow. And your message about being different was perfect. So thank you.
I loved it. The visual of it was amazing.
Great.
They really are weird animals, aren't they? Those platypi.
Oh, they're awesome. And don't get me started on narwhal. Narwhals,
oh god,
unicorns of the ocean.
That's like a 2-hour discussion, Jeff. We'll have to schedule that.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you for the compliment.
There's two things here from this conversation that I think everybody should make a decision like today to start doing. The first thing is pay attention to brain science and how people think. Number one, there's plenty of information about it publicly available. Persuasion is an excellent book by Robert Cialdini. That's the Bible of this stuff. But there's lots of other places. Don't do anything else in your business that isn't based on intersecting with human evolutionary biological ways of thinking. Nothing else works. It's the only thing that works. Second, start talking in stories. Every single thing you say should be a story. And there's lots of different formats for stories. Influence, I have it downstairs. Every single thing you say, it's related to you should understand your customer hero journey story. You should understand your own transformation, trusted guide advisor story. You should understand where it intersects with your customer hero journey story. You should have your introductory story, which is what Mike just went over. This is just one part of the story. The whole framework is just one part. There's more. And then your market point of view story is your perspective on conventional wisdom, the big shift in the world, what everybody's doing that's wrong, the conventional wisdom, and your big reveal about what's right and the impact on right in everybody's lives, especially them, and proof that right is right. If you haven't worked out that stuff, your business is just going to kind of chug along and never take off.
I think that the easy way to think about it, Larry, is everything with intent. And I'll give you the perfect example of that. Where you see me sitting right now is the only place that anyone ever sees me. My chair matches my logo. I always am in a dark color, like a black or gray sweatshirt, so it offsets the colors. The chair even looks like the wings of a butterfly. Everything is with intent when you're talking to an audience. You're always thinking about, like, how does my brand show up is always through the lens of your audience. So to walk in their shoes is the most important thing you can do. It's like an out-of-body experience you're trying to force to look at your business, because if you know, I'll give you an example. Stephen King writes a horror novel, 400 pages. There's no way he could possibly extract the 3 paragraphs that need to go on the blurb or the inside flap, the back cover, because he's too close to it. He knows everything. He needs someone else to go through it and pull out that 2% that's going to hook an audience and get them to buy the book. So being close to it, like that's the hardest thing to overcome, because you know everything. You start to think in terms of services when that's what's happening when you're working with someone, your services. How do you get them intrigued about working with you is the first step. And that all comes down to paying attention to your audience constantly. And you'll hear even today, like the Stephen King example, I use real examples based in tangible what people have experienced to get them onto the track of what I want them thinking. Stephen King writing a blurb becomes that idea of, I know everything about my business. How am I going to pull out the right connection point? So using those concrete examples in storytelling aligns people to what you're thinking. And another way to do it is to think in terms of, how do you make it personal to them? So if I tell all of you, think of Santa Monica Beach, all of you are right now thinking postcard, white strip, pier, Ferris wheel maybe. But if I say to all of you, think of a beach, all of you go somewhere that's unique to you, and it triggers sensory recall. Like if you were listening to a certain music or somebody was with you, or all of that comes rushing back to you, and it only means something to you. You can't get that out of your head once I've brought it up. So how do you connect to them on their terms? Because it becomes a really important piece of your message.
Awesome. Anybody else want to weigh in with an opinion or a comment? I don't see anybody in the chat in particular. One of the
Or if
things,
somebody wants to tell me how they talk about what they do now,
oh yeah, let's do that.
let's see what that happens.
Turn it into a workshop. Would anybody like to take the risk of stepping up here and
anyone other than
Nick?
Scott?
Yeah, Nick, let's go for it.
Sure, absolutely. So first
Nick.
off, great presentation, Mike.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking I can kind of just give you my like my tagline or just the first part of the entryway to the pitch, and you can kind of tweak it from there. Yeah. So what I came up with is I help you to manage your stress and reclaim your mental emotional bandwidth so you can perform optimally, shatter your limitations, and feel great while you do it. And the service
Who do you do that
itself,
for?
I do that for business owners and salespeople.
Okay, so they're overwhelmed with the stress of the day-to-day, just like the anxiety it generates and the frantic nature of just trying to get stuff done. Am I thinking about it right?
I would say that that's a population. I'm probably shooting more for like high performers. So people who are already successful and everyone's telling them to chill and they're like, no, they want to go harder. And this is someone who wants to get every second to count. So a lot of what goes into it is time management, building successful behaviors, so improving habits, and there is a relaxation technique that goes along with all this.
I would say you deal in maintaining forward momentum. Meaning you've got somebody who is striving, like keeps wanting to move up, they have a drive, right? And the worst thing that can happen to someone like that is stagnation. Think of traffic. You like to drive your BMW M series really fast on an open road, but every day when you come home, you're sitting at maybe 10 miles an hour for 45 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. This person is never satisfied with where they're at. If they're the diamond
forward momentum is what they want.
Yeah, the diamond level producer wants to be the double diamond level, the double diamond wants to be the triple, whatever, the VIP wants to be the VIP plus or whatever, thing is in their organization.
C-suite dreams, C-suite motivation. So they're going to look at not moving forward as a problem.
Yeah.
How do you maintain your momentum? How do you maintain that? It's not even fast. It's, let's say the speed is 50 miles an hour. How do you at least maintain 50 miles an hour and always keep yourself going forward?
Got it. Interesting.
That's what I hear.
Okay. It's very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks
Mike.
Nick, for being the subject there, and Mike for the great ideas. Didi, I think you were in the chat next. And then Umberto.
Didi, let's see if you do it all wrong. Hit me.
So I'm a certified financial planner. I have my own financial planning firm. And what I try to get across to people is I do comprehensive services. I mean, I do the whole thing. It's not just financial planning. It's not just investing. It's tax preparation. It's estate planning and bill pay. So I have a comprehensive setup. And it's like I try to get that across to people, but I feel like I fall into the category of what you said about the car, going in and getting your car fixed.
You're hitting them with too much.
Here are all my tools, but that's not, I don't think that's the most effective way. And I do have a target market, but I don't know how to get it across to them.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, here's a simple way to think about that. As people get older and are thinking, like, this isn't a 25-year-old you're talking to. You're talking to somebody who's like, okay, I've got a family, maybe I own a house or I'm buying a house, whatever. They're getting into a point in their life where that kind of, call it estate planning or self-planning, becomes really important. Think about the automated tools that are on the market. You can almost do it yourself at this point, right? You could trade your own stock.
Can I tell you who my niche market is? Because that might help. I really like working with older, mature women who are divorced, widowed, and they don't have the self-confidence. They're afraid of being taken advantage of. And I feel like I can offer them all this in a nurturing way.
Okay, so here's how I want you to think about that then. their mindset is this is overwhelming and I'm doing it on my own, correct?
Yes.
Everything looks like it's fractured pieces all over the place. Think in terms of how you bring that together into an image for them. How do you take insurance, life insurance, health insurance, your IRA, your estate, all of that feels like I have to think about all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What you're trying to do is say, let's bring it all together and solidify it into one easy to manage package for you, because you don't want to have to deal with all this on your own. You got it? All those pieces are floating around. They're already overwhelmed. They're already doing it on their own. What they need is just to see the clear picture. How do all these puzzle pieces fit together for me? That's where you want to go with this.
So how do I put that like in one sentence, or I don't know.
Right
Because I
now,
want to say, oh, I do all this, but I'm really
right
nice.
now, life feels like a bunch of puzzle pieces and you don't know how they fit together.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So then where you're leading them is, I'm going to sit down with you and put that puzzle together so we see the image of your life.
We need a tip jar.
Yeah,
It'll be filled with things like, here's a tip, don't play in traffic.
So Umberto, I think you were up next, and then Allie, and then Jim Duffy.
Appreciate it, Larry. Good morning, Mike. Thank you for
Good morning, Umberto. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself? I really like the personal approach with the speech and presentation too.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm a management consultant and I work with growing companies. So I do process improvement and culture development. And the tag I use is I work with growing companies to move past scaling challenges by championing the people who own the operational execution.
Perfect. So ultimately what they have is an efficiency issue, correct?
Correct.
Meaning there are two sides to a business. One is top line sell, one is bottom line, don't spend that much. And that gets you to your profit, right? If they're looking at, they have a lot of necessary evils that they have to deal with, right? If you run a business, you need electricity. Just as a silly example, like a simple example, but you need HR, you need employee insurance, you need all of these things that even as a small business, you didn't have to think about. What you're doing is that business owner is, Jeff, that's a perfect tip. Buy low, sell high is the easiest way to go. What you're doing as a business owner is the necessary evils. I have to keep the lights on. I have to keep paychecks going through. I have to keep the conveyor belt assembly line going. But those are all necessary evils. If you're able to go in and say, look how much waste you have in trying to get where you want to go, and you can get there much more easily by eliminating that waste. Now you've got them aligned to, wait, I'm spending money on all these things. He can save me money. So think in terms of waste management.
Okay. And
if you're on the operational side, like the systems internal side, that's what that's going to relate to. Versus if you were on just the sales side and showing people how to sell more effectively, that could be a different message, right? That's not about waste. That's about effectiveness.
Okay, and then the effectiveness I'm hearing that kind of connects into that culture building piece where you kind of start building up the people and giving them those tools and the tactics of better communication, more transparency, and more trust building.
Exactly. So let's say the drag on the time they're wasting could be, I'm going to use meetings, for example. They're wasting a ton of time or wasting effect on how they're running meetings. That could be something that you come in and say, all right, here's one thing we can work on. So you're able to go in and assess where their waste issues are or where they're effectively diminishing their return and show them how to get a higher return on it.
Awesome. I definitely like the waste management.
It's different for somebody who does what you do.
It definitely is. To say lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, those type of things. I think you could put a room of people together and they can pick out the problems easily, but it's just the effectiveness of those people and re-envisioning how problems look in an organization is what is key.
Well, I'll give you an example. This is everybody knows the movie Ghostbusters that came out in the 80s, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, like the original one. They had trouble getting that off the ground initially. Dan Aykroyd and team had trouble getting it off the ground because they were having a hard time explaining what the movie was. But then Dan Aykroyd figured it out. He went into whichever, I can't remember which studio did it, but say it's Universal. He went into Universal and they said, so what is this movie, Ghostbusters? And his line was, I want you to picture the ghost janitors of New York City. And that's how he set up the entire explanation of what the movie was about. But now take that line, think about the movie. That was exactly what they were. They were dressed like janitors. They show up in this ratty old car. They've got traps to get rid of things, like a rat trap almost. It lived up to that simple 10-word explanation of what the movie was about. And that's the importance of getting people aligned from the jump on, you know, creating that intrigue. Okay, I'm aligned. Now what are you going to tell me? That becomes really important. You're setting them up for that next part of your story. If they don't understand chapter 1, how are they expected to understand chapter 2 or 3?
Before we go to Allie, I just wanted to mention one thing. Mike, you might want to weave in a little bit with Umberto. Is what's amazing about what Umberto does is that he did this as part of his family business that created a very, very unique culture that allowed them to take that business to another level of professionalism and sell it.
There you go.
The culture lived on, is as far as my understanding is, with the buyers. It's a different way to run that sort of a business. So it goes way beyond just the techniques of efficiency and Six Sigma and lean and all that stuff. So I would want to,
let's talk about where that would fall on the elevator then, right? That is pure validation. I know it works because I've done it, not only for clients, but for myself. This is the exact same kind of philosophy that we needed to use to grow our multi-generational business into what it is today. It becomes part of your story, Umberto. It becomes part of what makes you the right person to say this and to be able to do it.
And I want to add on to that something really important you just said about sequencing. So this is what people are doing wrong, and I see it all the time, is they start there. And what you just did is you created a block in the mind of the person who's hearing this, because these little reptile brain alarm bells go off of threat. Somebody's going to try to sell me something now.
Right.
So if you add it at the end, after you've gotten all this other stuff and that flow going and built that kind of openness, then it really works and makes sense.
You know, here's a great old school pop cultural reference for this. If you remember Cy Sperling and Hair Club for Men, every single ad ended with, I'm not only the president, I'm also a client. He's like, look, it works. And that's how he ended every commercial that he did, was that way.
And Nick's is perfect. Jaws in space, to make Alien, to get money to make Alien. They went in and said, what I'm doing is we're going to make a movie. It's Jaws in space.
Yep.
This is, if you want to really understand this, there's a book called Positioning by Trout Reese that came out in what was called the Era of Positioning and Marketing, which started in the 70s, 74 or something. It's all right in there. All of this stuff is right in there. Mm-hmm. So Allie, I think you were next, right?
Hi, thanks so much. Thanks, Mike. This was some really great stuff.
Hi, Allie.
Hi. So I'll just run this by you real quick, what I've got.
Sure.
So I help remote workers to be the boss of their day by uncovering the why of time management and focus struggles, which leaves them feeling accomplished and enjoying more free time.
All right, so let's dial it right up to what the issue is. let's align it with idleness is the devil's workplace or workshop or whatever, right? You're working at home, remote work. Now let's apply that to if you were in an office, what was happening during the day, right? There's a lot of things that are going on that are influencing your 8-hour day. When you're at home, there's a lot of things that are influencing your 8-hour day that aren't related to work. And the way you tend to manage it is work life and home life are integrated. Here's my work to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to deviate. It's easy to say, I'll do that later, because you don't have people breathing down your neck. So what you are dealing in is actually accountability. How do you make people who are accountable only to themselves, even if they're working for a company, it doesn't matter. In those 8 hours, they have to be accountable to themselves. They're not going to meetings where they're being seen. They're not on a conference call necessarily with their boss. Maybe they're feeding the cat. Maybe there's a show they want to catch up on. Maybe they take an hour and a half lunch, but it's all about accountability. That's what time management is a branch of, is accountability and responsibility. And if you focus on the idea of making remote workers accountable to themselves, that starts to drive home all of what you do for them. It's just sort of something that you're introducing. That I help statement needs some context related to what the key driver is, like their organization, time management, all of that stems from that idea of accountability.
Makes sense. Yeah, totally.
Got it. So Jim, you wanted to step up?
Sure. So
hi, Jim.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I sure can. I was saying hello.
Okay. Hi. My tagline is, I help forensic accountants to meet with the attorneys they seek to serve. So I set up about 50 meetings a month with forensic accountants and business valuations experts and attorneys, litigation attorneys, and different niche. And there's about 45 different sub niches, but that kind of
set an example for me, Jim. Give me an example of give me an example of one of those transactions, like where a forensic accountant would be brought into the litigation process.
So I'm calling an intellectual property attorney focused on the music business. So I'll call up Karen and I'll say, Karen, well, it's not a tagline, it's what I say. But
yeah, go ahead.
I'll say, Karen, I see that you worked on the Guns N' Roses cases with Alec, whatever the guy's name is.
Axl Rose.
Axl Rose, and I work with Mike Verret, who's one of the top forensic accountants focused on intellectual property in the music business. He'd love the opportunity to host you for a short lunch or coffee sometime. Anyway, and I have a very high success rate. However, the tagline, so that just gives you the context.
Hang on, one more question for you, Jim. The forensic accountant's role in that Axl Rose example, why are they being brought in? Like, what is Axl Rose's problem that he would need a
Axl Rose has been fired by the band.
Okay.
And so now he starts playing his music as a solo, but it's the band's intellectual property. So he's getting sued. So this forensic accountant is actually calculating what the potential damages are as a result of that. Now, the attorney knows what I'm, that's why I say the attorneys you seek to serve. All these 99% of their business comes from attorneys. So
right. So they need an attorney needs someone to dig into the nitty gritty nuts and bolts and really figure out valuation, threat level, all of that kind of stuff.
Right. The attorney engages the accountant. Okay.
Right. But the reason they're engaging the accountant is to get into that detail that the attorney just doesn't know how to do.
Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Exactly.
From where I sit on this, the challenge that the attorney is in, obviously they need to bring in experts to do stuff, but it really is in the details, right? The reason a forensic accountant exists is to go in and find to any of us, it would look like metadata in web code, what they're able to go in and track. And it's about tracking, right? It's about that. It's about the ability to see where something's going and the effect that was put on that thing as it traveled. Think of it that way. Like a car traveling across country, you know exactly where it stopped to sleep. The people that sleep, where it got gas, where they stopped for food, is ultimately what you're trying to convey. I think your entry point is more about the devil is in the details. If somebody's representing Axl Rose, they can't afford to miss anything.
Right.
That's what I would focus on. Because you're saying what the attorney knows. Your people understand those details to avoid the devil.
Well, this tagline is really for me to try and attract the accountants, not the attorneys. So I have two constituents. I have the attorneys, and when I call the attorney that is working on the Axl Rose case, I'm getting very, very granularly specific, because when I start talking about them, they really like hearing about what they did, However, when I'm trying to attract the forensic accountants, I don't know if it's too vanilla or whatever, or if I should segment my tagline for every different type of niche within the niche,
Well, I mean, the forensic accountants are looking for business, correct? I mean, that's their goal, is to get involved with these things. Do you have the opportunity to flex some of the, like, who you're representing as this is an opportunity for something higher scale, or do we stay away from that?
I can do it not in print, but I can do it verbally. And I can introduce people as references. But
okay, so that's not a core thing that you could talk about. The forensic accountants looking for business, how else are they finding it?
It's a really old-fashioned business. This guy hands them a card, that guy hands them a card. So what I've basically done is I've set up a taxonomy of, hey, this guy matches with all these attorneys. And so I find all the attorneys that are entertainment attorneys that can use his services. And then I basically, my calling process is I call the attorney, tell them what they do. I see you work with Axl Rose, or I see you worked on the John Gotti trial, whatever case, and how it relates back to what my client does.
Yep.
So that I've got nailed. My biggest issue is, how do I attract the accountants? That's my biggest, issue, is how do and I got a lot of references too. It's just, I'm looking for the right tag, I guess, is the main thing. But,
well,
so Mike, just in the
right experience.
In the interest of time, we got three more people. So maybe just put a closure on it with Jim.
Jim, I'll leave it with this, and I'll put my contact information in. We can continue the conversation. I'd be happy to, but I think you have to focus on what's driving the forensic accountants. Is it just business, or is it the right business? And how do they get their hands in the right kind of business that they want to work on?
Sure. That's great.
That's what I would run with.
Good closure there. So Carrie, I think you were next, patiently.
Sure.
Waiting.
Hi guys.
Hey, Carrie, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Great presentation. Love your background, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
So this is gonna be a little challenging for me, because I'm trying to figure out how to do this, but I run a staffing and recruiting company. And my tagline is, we help bring great talent into your company. And I work in the mid to high level space when it comes to anywhere from IT, manufacturing, engineering, and healthcare. That's kind of my.
So you're recruiting for higher end.
Mid to high level, exactly. Director level positions, exactly.
Okay.
So trying to figure out how. Go ahead.
What do you say now?
So then I say,
say it one more time. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So okay. So I run a staffing and recruiting firm, and we help bring great talent into companies like yours in the mid to high level space. Well, obviously if I'm talking to a group like this, let's just say, and what we're doing.
Yep.
So that's what I do. And then, I kind of talk about the industries I work with. And then I say, with these challenging times right now, a lot of people need people like myself. It's a very challenging time out there. And that's why they would hire someone like me, because we know that it's very hard to find good opportunity right now.
And so that's perfect. And I think it speaks to what a lot of people in your position are obviously, especially now with the Great Resignation, remote work,
everything.
All of this, you want to focus them on that first, not that you're a recruiter. Put it that way.
And I try not to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the biggest thing to take away in your position is, what is the tendency for people to find those types of roles is going to be either a personal referral or harvesting of resumes in a lot of cases, right? Even if it's director level and up, they're still looking at Indeed. They're still looking on LinkedIn. And that creates a lot of work, and it's hit or miss. If you could go in and say that we've capitalized on this shift in the marketplace to a very employee centric, like it is the job seeker's advantage right now.
Very
If the
much.
housing market is low, it's the seller, it's the buyer's advantage.
Yes.
It right now, what you want to tell them is the employee has all the power. They have
And
a
I've been
wealth
saying
of
that.
choices.
That's what I say.
And how do they, so if there's that many employees who hold all the power, how are you going to sort through to find the one that's right for you? And then you can simply back that up with, your process of identifying the right fit and leading them to the idea of everybody we send you is 80% the right person. You know, we're not going to send you, it's not harvesting. We're going to do the heavy work for you and only bring you the right candidates. But starting from that point of the employees have all the power,
you know,
get them aligned to the fact that they're not just hiring for a job. The employees can literally say, nah, I'm not into that one.
You know, another thing I say too is how we differentiate ourselves is I have a business partner and he's kind of like a Six Sigma guy. So he's an engineer by trade. And when I talk about the process of what we don't just put a right person, how do I say it? We don't just put this person on that seat of bus. We make sure they fit before we do. And I kind of say we're kind of like a matchmaking service. We match the candidate with the client and we bring them together. But I try to
use the idea of a tailor.
Okay.
You're not buying a suit off the rack. We're going to customize how it custom fit it to you.
I like that. That's good. Okay.
Something like that is an easy way to get your audience to think, instead of just, oh, he's a recruiter and he's going to find somebody for us, to he's going to find the right fit. Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank
so
you.
David, we got about 4 more minutes. So why don't we do David, and then if anybody wants to stay on, we'll have breakout rooms. If you don't want to stay on, then obviously just, leave at the top of the hour so I can get an accurate count. So David, what's up?
Yeah, well, first I'd like to second your plug for Persuasion. That's a great book on psychology, and also give a plug for this book, Triggers. This is an oldie but goodie by Joe Sugarman. It's got a bunch of triggers, including like curiosity and storytelling and urgency, a lot of good information in this one. But as far as my elevator pitch, I recently moved, and I found that the new house I bought, we needed a new driveway. It was going to cost about $10,000. And I found it really very difficult to shop around for paving companies because there was not a lot of information about who was good. I ended up
And what the hell do you know about paving?
Yeah, exactly. And 10 grand is a lot of money to spend. So the guy ended up hiring, his name is Nick, and he was paving driveways at age 15. He learned the business from his dad. He really did an incredible job on my driveway, but I almost didn't hire him because he only had 3 reviews online. They were all 5-star, but some of them were really old, and he didn't have the credibility. And he said, oh, well, I get my business by word of mouth. And I think what he didn't realize is that word of mouth doesn't usually mean someone says, hey, so-and-so, Nick's great at paving, and they call you up. What do? They search you on Google, and then they only see 3 reviews and may go to your competition. So I was able to help Nick with his reputation by putting a reputation program on autopilot. He got lots more Google reviews, also took those reviews, created a YouTube video that highlights a testimony. And now when someone searches for asphalt or paving in his area, that Google video comes right up at the top of the results. And now he's got so many customers, he's getting about twice as many phone calls. I also made a small change to his website that highlights reviews so they can't miss it when they come to his website. And now he's got so many clients that he's able to cherry pick the best jobs, and has increased his business incredibly. So my name's David Huff. I'm with WebWow, and I help companies with their reputation. And I believe that the most important thing that any business can market is their reputation, because people like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And your reputation is how you build up that trust.
I love it. Great way to take us through it from a storytelling perspective. There's one thing that you need to consider, though. At the beginning of your story, it's sort of think about, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you just told them, right? Your story brings us through the paving, but you want to get them attached to reputation right away. Your reputation is what matters. Here's an example of that. Built on reputation, but how do you magnify that reputation, or how do you amplify that reputation? How do you automate that reputation so you don't have to be the one carrying it forward? Focus on that word, because that defines what you're doing. How you do it is going to be reviews, Google searches, all of that becomes very mechanical. And the power of what you're doing, Amazon defined in the late 90s when they introduced stars and ratings. All of a sudden, the brand doesn't have the power to say, you need what I have, because I could say, do I? I'm going to check with these 8,000 people who have already experienced your service and gave you a 3.5-star rating. So the power of that reputation is what this guy is selling on already. What you're teaching him how to do is amplify your reputation the right way, and using tools that a second or third generation driveway paver certainly isn't going to understand.
All right, awesome. Deb, sorry we ran out of time, but Mike, you want to put your link
Yes.
in the chat?
So,
so
I
if
am going,
anybody's
hang on, I
interested-
just have to grab it.
Yeah.
I am going to put in the chat my Calendly link and as well as my LinkedIn. And I just encourage you guys to reach out. I would love to walk you through, talk a little bit more about your business. Hang on, I'm trying to find the right, I'm woefully unprepared for the copy and paste. Sorry. I'm fixing it now, Larry. I would love to meet all of you and talk to you one-on-one about your business. It's what I enjoy doing for a living, and it pretty much takes up all of my days. So my contact information is here, and we could certainly talk about whatever you'd like. It's sort of an open forum.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for
joining us.
having me, Larry. This is awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
I love everybody. I love hearing about your business and how you position it. My only hope is that I wasn't boring.
No, not at all. And thank you. I really appreciate you doing this. So I'm going to break everybody up to subrooms. So if you can't stay, if you could leave the call, that would be helpful. Otherwise, then I've got to reassign this. So the way this works is that if you're in a room with somebody that you know really well, and maybe you want to be in a different room then just come back to the main session and I can reassign you. So the idea obviously is to meet people that you don't know, but I can't really figure that out. So I just have it do it automatically. So 2 to 3 participants. Okay, I'm going to create this right now. And then if you need to come back in the main room, that's not a problem. And thanks everybody for coming. And we're going to change our format for next week. It'll be the same thing though, same time, but Chris Colt is going to come on and we're going to start talking about our own stories. So Chris has got a really successful business, and he went from a financial calamity and left a corporate career in sales to really building this new business, and it's worked for him. And we're going to talk about that journey. So we're going to take a little bit different take on this, but same time, same station. All right, let's hit create. And open all rooms. There we go. Oh, we got a Firefly in here. Damn it. All right.